Hello everyone and welcome back to the DLG. My name is Skip. We're heading back out to Sedona, Arizona to have a look at the grave sites of the founders of Sedona and the namesake, Carl and Sedona Schnebly, two of the founders. Very romantic story, also a very tragic one as well. But before we get started with that, I wanted to thank all of you new subscribers. My subscribership is really starting to increase. This month, it's really gone up dramatically. And in YouTube standards, I am such a tiny little channel. But to all of you new subscribers and people who are commenting and giving me a thumbs up and subscribing, I really, really do appreciate it. Every single time you hit that subscribe button and you give a thumbs up or you leave a comment, it actually helps YouTube to rate my channel and use my channel as recommendations for other viewers. So I really do appreciate it. It really does help. So be sure and hit that subscribe button. So one thing a lot of people don't know when they're coming out to Sedona, you guys are probably a lot like I am. You know of Sedona primarily for its red rocks and its vortex. We were originally known, believe it or not, for our apples here in Sedona because of the rich volcanic soil, perfect for growing non-citrus fruit. Now, Carl Schnebly, one of our founding fathers, he was also one of our very first postmasters here in Sedona. He was an apple farmer. He and his brother came out here to farm apples. Of course, every single year after the harvest, they had to deliver those apples up to Flagstaff. Now, in those days, they used to put those apples on trains, ship them all over the country. And as a service to the community, as it was a very tiny community in those days, he would bring back mail-in supplies for the other settlers. Now, in order to get over to Flagstaff, it wasn't very easy. It actually took them 3 days to get up and over the Colorado Plateau. It also took him 3 days to get back. So he'd bring back all of those supplies with him. And on one of his trips, he realized he was starting to bring back a lot more than he was bringing up there. And so he got a hold of the Postmaster General in Washington, D.C., wrote him a letter, and said, what do we have to do to get our own post office, have things delivered here to us? Now, the Postmaster General wrote back to him and said, well, you need a few things. You need a school, library, a church, and you need a name for the community. Well, Carl got excited because they had a school, a church, and a library. All they really needed was a name for the community. So he actually submitted two names back in those days. First name was Schnebly Station, and the other name was Oak Creek Crossing. Both of those names were turned down by the postmaster in Washington because of their length. So they wrote back and said, we're going to limit you to one word. It has to be a very short word because it has to fit on that little postage cancellation stamp. So Carl couldn't actually come up with a name. He couldn't think of anything, and he was sitting around with his brother one day, and his brother said, you know, we live in a beautiful community. We have to come up with a beautiful name. And Carl looked up at his brother because a light bulb went off in his head, and he said, you know, the most beautiful thing I can think of is my lovely wife, Sedona. And that's how we got our name. Now, I always thought that Sedona was a Native American word. I always thought maybe she was Yavapai, Apache, Navajo. But as it turns out, she came from the East, very wealthy family, very large family. And when Sedona was born, her parents just didn't have a name picked out yet. So her mother combined the initials of all the other children to make up the word Sedona. So it's a made-up word or acronym. The tragic part of the story is that one of Sedona's children died tragically. And there's several different stories, and I won't get into all of the stories, but it was basically an accident on a horse. So any way you look at it, it was a tragedy on a horse. And Sedona became so distraught afterwards that at one point she went to her husband and said, I can't live here anymore. And they ended up moving up to Flagstaff. Ultimately, they moved back down into Sedona. And Sedona herself actually died in 1950. So we're on our way out to see her gravesite. Hopefully I'll be able to find it. There's not a whole lot of information about where their grave is actually located. I was on the internet for quite a while today trying to look that up. And all I could find is that they're buried in a little cemetery, tiny little cemetery. I think it's called the Sedona Memorial Cemetery, and it's right there off of Airport Road. We're going to drive over there, take a look at it, and have a look and see what's going on, and see if we can find it. So guys, right behind me right there is what's left of the original Schnebly General Store. Now this was actually 3 stories at one point. The bottom floor right here was part of their general store. Second floor was a boarding house. The third floor is where they lived. And then directly across the street over there is where the Schnebly home is located. That's it, if you can see it with a nice rock right there. That's it, right there. And it's on the historic registry, and there's the sign. Sedona Schnebly Historic Home. Right here, this paint company right now, this is actually the original post office of town, and this is where Carl Schnebly was the postmaster. And as you can see right there, it's right along the creek. And then right over here, those buildings right there, those 3 buildings, those are the original settlers' cabins here in town. And we're on Brewer Road, the original main street of town. Well, guys, walked right up to it. Have a look at that. And there she is, ladies and gentlemen. The gravesite of Sedona Schnebly. And there's Carl. Born in 1899, died in 1905, right there. So that's the tragedy right there. But what a beautiful spot. Van Duren. One of these days when I have access to a 4-wheel drive, I'm going to have to take you guys up to the Van Duren cabin. Interesting, guys. Here's some Purdymans. A good friend of ours, actually, if you watched my video on gold mining, the gentleman that was with me, Dave, he's actually related to the Purdyman family. Interesting that we're here. So guys, it's starting to get late. We're going to go ahead and take off, leave this place. Beautiful cemetery on a beautiful day, a little windy though. If any of you guys want to know how to get up here, just let me know. And we'll see you guys again next time, right here on the DLG. Remember, like and subscribe, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.